Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Too Many Hobbies podcast. It's been a while since we talked and life just got pretty hectic. There was a lot going on during the hunting season and it was really hard to schedule guests. The main thing being that my kids had started to go through a couple sleep regressions and it makes it a little difficult at bedtime to record these episodes, which is when I have the guests come on later in the evening, and also for myself I record them later at night. So this one's being filmed during the day and it makes things a little bit easier, but I do want to finish off the season, and there's going to be this episode. There will be one more episode with John Wallace from 𝐦𝐤𝐤𝐞 that I talked about before, and then a season wrap up. So this episode is going to be mostly focused on the RNT filming, as well as the Tanglefree work. I pretty much solely dedicated a couple weeks of hunting season for the RNT work, and it was some of the coolest stuff that I've been able to be a part of, and I just wanted to come on and dedicate an episode to talking about that for anybody that's interested. And we'll just get into talking about that. So before I ended up going on the RNT trip, that was when I started talking to Tanglefree, and what I had done was sent them a proposal because I wanted to start getting in touch with some of the companies that I really look up to and that I want to be a part of. And the easiest way for me was to just send them an email. So I sent them an email with a proposal that I had come up with. Tanglefree already has a contract for photographers, and so what they did is they countered with that contract, which is to be a field pro photographer. They also have a field pro videographer position. I decided to go the photo route. It's a little easier for me to get photos during hunting season than it is for me to get video, because I'm doing the YouTube and filming that style. It makes it a little easier for me to just shoot photos while I'm filming those YouTube videos. Obviously, when I'm traveling for RNT, I'm filming and taking photos as well. So that video side I kind of dedicated to filming for RNT, and then I wanted to have the photo side for Tanglefree. So I really kind of split it between the two. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's the path that I chose. So I'm really excited to be part of Tanglefree as a photographer. If you guys haven't listened to the Punisher Waterfowl podcast that I was on and guest hosted with Damien for Corey, coming on and talking about some products, talking about Tanglefree as a whole, we alluded to so what the work is that people in my position with Tanglefree actually take on. So it's creating content for marketing, for ads, and it works out pretty well for us. We get paid per photo, we get paid per year, we get credit. It's a pretty cool setup. It actually works out really nice compared to the proposal that I had sent them, so it actually came back as a better offer than what I sent them, which is nice on their part that they stick to that no matter how you send it to them. Mine was just going to be a lot more work for a higher cost. This is a little less work for less money, but it's not per photo. It actually comes out about the same, so it works out nicely in my favor. And so taking that position into the TV show worked out really nicely because I was able to capture a lot of content for my Tanglefree submissions while on the road with Sean and the crew for RNT-v. So that was nice. We ended up scheduling our first trip for RNT-v was in Michigan. So we went with Great Lakes Guided Outdoors, Connor Goff up there. He runs that program, and they took us in for a few days, let us sleep in the guest house or the guide house. We actually just slept on cots. It was not the fanciest thing ever, but it definitely works for what we were doing. We were hunting most of the day, scouting, and then eating and basically going to bed. So it worked out really nice. The first couple days we hunted with Great Lakes Guided Outdoors. We we actually ran veterans free hunt. So what it was is we ran the 3 panel blinds in a field, and then the extra spots that we had in the blind, we had veterans join us for free. So Connor put it out on Facebook and was able to get people to come fill the blind. It helps us because then it gets more guns on the birds that are coming in. It was crowded. Don't get me wrong. It was really crowded in that blind, but it was cool to get veterans out to hunt with us. We got some good footage. We got a lot of good photos, sponsorship, ad placements for the show, social media content for that sponsors for RNT. It worked out really nicely. Tanglefree does sponsor the TV show, which makes things astronomically easier for me going into it to be able to get the photos that I need. They got all the products. So the panel blind, Sean designed the panel blind for Tanglefree. So that's obviously there. We got the stools, decoys, gun bags. I mean, everything you can think of, they have from Tanglefree. So it makes it a little easier for me to get the content that I needed. And also for filming, we were able to get a lot of stuff that they needed. So worked out really nicely. We hunted fields 2 days in a row. The first day was much more lucrative than the second day. And after the second day, we started planning a trip to Saginaw Bay. We were going from basically west central Michigan to Ontario. So we had a 5-day stint that we were going to be hunting in Michigan for 3 days, Ontario for 2 days, and then coming home. So the third day was kind of our hunt/travel day over to Ontario. And so we went to Saginaw Bay, hunted out of Sean's Express boat. If anybody hasn't seen that boat, go check his Instagram because he's got some crazy blind that goes on that. I mean, it's basically it's a permanent blind that he can take on and off. So it stays on the boat during hunting season. It's got blind grass all over it. It's all welded. Sean's friend has a fab shop, so he's able to pretty much fabricate anything that he possibly needs. Phil is just a whiz when it comes to anything that needs fabricated. So he has built this incredible blind on the boat. It's essentially like a G-frame style. You sit towards the back of it. It's higher in the back, lower in the front. Blind grass comes up, covers your face, and any birds that come close do not flare off of this. It is just an absolute unit. I'll put up a picture somewhere in here of it that we took so you guys can see it, but it is just such a crazy looking blind, and it hides so well. But it's a 20-foot Express. I think it's a 2072 with a 115 Yamaha show off the back of it with a jack plate, 2 talons that hold the boat in place, which is really cool that you don't have to necessarily put out anchors. You can just drop the talons, and it doesn't sway as much as you would think. It holds the boat pretty steady, and it's really nice, especially if you're going to be, if you sail a bird. We sailed one in Sandusky Bay at Saginaw Bay that we had to unanchor the boat to go get, and it was super easy. I mean, you pull up the talons, drive out of the spread, get the bird, drive back in the spread, drop the talons. It's just incredibly easy, and it was really cool. We dropped the boat in Saginaw Bay in this spot that it was really only about 1.5 feet, 2 foot deep, and we couldn't get the boat on plane, so we basically had to idle in the dark and the fog for like an hour to get to the spot that we were going to. And then we set back in the cattails, put out a bunch of diver decoys, some mallards. I don't know if we put any geese out or not, but it was quite the spread, and it worked out. I think we shot 6 or 7 birds that day. Nothing crazy, but we were able to get some good footage for an episode that Sean wants to do of hunting in Michigan. So that worked out really nicely. And we got some stuff for an episode that he wants to do of Carl. I don't know if this is going to be Carl's last season or not, but there's an episode that's going to be dedicated to Carl. He just turned 11, so he's old, but you would never know hunting with him. I mean, that dog is an absolute unit. And he's just such a beast for as old as he is. I mean, he's a field trial champion, and it shows. I mean, he handles really well. He marks very well, and he just has a big motor on him. So it's really cool to watch him work. We left Sandusky, or I keep saying Sandusky Bay, but it's Saginaw Bay. We were actually able to get the boat on plane. We went kind of out from shore into some deeper water and brought it back. Then we headed to, we actually stopped at 𝐥𝐤𝐞 to pick up some stuff. I've done work with Glenn and Bob over there, so that was cool, and Sean's friends with them. So it was cool to see the shop. We didn't get to see them. They weren't there, but we stopped and saw the shop real quick, picked up some stuff from them, and then headed on to Ontario. And we were staying in Junior's brother. So Junior films for RNT-v as well. He's been friends with Sean for years. And so we stayed over there, and then Junior and I were able to tag team the filming. In Michigan, it was just me. But then we were able to tag team the filming while we were over there. And while we didn't get a ton of action, the footage that we did get, it was a little bit easier to do it. With Junior focusing on the birds, me focusing on the blind and the dog. And it's definitely a lot nicer having two people for filming something like that, because it can get hectic. It can get really hectic real quick. And if for some reason I have a malfunction, then I know that there's a second camera that's able to get it. I did run a GoPro as a secondary camera just in case while I was filming by myself, but it's just not the same when you have a really nice camera and then you're able to supplement that with another really nice camera. It makes things a little bit easier, and you know that you're getting some quality footage for a TV show of that caliber. So that was nice. We ended up staying, like I said, in Junior's brother's barn. He built a loft inside this barn. It's all heated floor. It's radiant heat in the floor. So it was super comfortable sleeping in there. And so Sean, Phil, myself, and there was different sleeping arrangements than sleeping on a cot, which was nice. But that barn was just crazy. I mean, he lives in there. He works out of it. It's super cool. When I put the clips in the video for that, I'm going to make a separate video for YouTube of kind of the behind the scenes stuff that I did film, and maybe a couple clips here and there of the hunts. But it was just such a cool experience. The people in Canada, I mean, you're not far from where we are, and it's just crazy how nice everybody is, and the accent is just it's cool that it's not super far away, but they still have a pretty thick Canadian accent. So everybody that I met there was super nice. It was really cool. We hunted fields both days. I think this was the first year that the clubs up on St. Clair had reinstated the baiting. So the clubs are allowed to bait legally, and you could see the birds coming from basically club to club. They would go, I mean, they know where the food is, and especially with as warm as the beginning of the season was, it kept birds up there anyway. But I think that the baiting really helped stage them in Canada. And, even though Hudson Bay and all that stuff up there didn't freeze, or it's just now freezing, whatever it is, January. So I can't remember what I saw on the map, but I mean, it stayed open, and those birds didn't need to move down. And it's the same thing right there in St. Clair's. It was warm. They have a ton of food, and the food's essentially being given to them. They don't need to go foraging for anything. And I think that kept a lot of birds up there, but it also kept them in the clubs while we were trying to hunt them. So basically we were hunting as far out away from these clubs as we were legally allowed to, and then setting up and just trying to convince birds to come to where we were. It was a little difficult. I mean, we put out 15 or 20 dozen decoys, and we were able to pull them in, but not the big groups. The big groups stayed together and made things a little more difficult. The first day we hunted in a bean field, and I don't know if it was overcast. There was also some the dirt that was in this bean field was dark, so it probably made it a little more difficult to see the decoys, but that's here nor there. And then I think we ended up shooting 15 or so that day, and then the next day we went over to a cornfield literally across the street from where we were staying, and it's right by a club, and so we were allowed to hunt that field as well. And it was a cornfield. Those birds were in the field behind where we were staying like 2 days in a row. They're coming out of the club, going straight into that field. And so we were essentially going to traffic them. And that day, as luck would have it, we got like 4, I think. And those big groups of birds just didn't come out of that club. They stayed in the club. They were hanging out in there. It made things really difficult for us. So it was a good trip overall. We got a lot of content that we can use, but just wasn't as lucrative as Sean would have liked, and he let me know that I ended up being on one of the worst trips that they've had, and that kind of carried its way into the next trip. So our next trip, we ended up going to Minnesota. We went to Fergus Falls, and we were anticipating it being really cold there. The same time the year before, a couple of years before, it was like 18 degrees, hunting these geese on ice, snow, and when we got there it was 60 degrees. So it made things very difficult. And as we were getting in, there was a lot of little geese that were there. And the first day that we were out, we were hunting a pit blind on a small pond. And you could see all of these geese that were getting up there going south. And so we were thinking, maybe this is about the time that these little geese are getting out. And as luck would have it, the little geese were getting out. We didn't shoot a lot of little geese during the week. We were shooting big Canada honkers. And so you could definitely tell that there was a transition happening, that either those birds were starting to move in, and then that week, that's what they were doing. They were the bigger birds were moving in, the little birds were moving out. And so the first day, kind of a scouting day, we hunted, but we were just kind of watching the pattern of the birds and just seeing, like, kind of where they were going. Tried to set up under them the best that we could. For the second day, we ended up hunting another small pond inside of a bunch of fields. That's all it is out there. It's just fields and small bodies of water. So we ended up hunting this field, or this pond that we had seen a lot of geese flying by, and worked out really nicely. We were able to traffic a lot of birds. I think we ended up shooting 18 or 20 that day. We ended up shooting a banded goose. That was really cool. We had a huge wad of shovelers come in. It was crazy. It was about 60 shovelers just come land right in the spread. And so we knocked a few of those down. Yeah, we had some good footage come out of that as well. A lot of singles, doubles, not big groups. We shot like into 2 groups that were bigger than like a 4-pack, so it wasn't anything spectacular. But with the singles and the doubles working that way, it makes it a little easier for me to film, because then you're only focusing on like those couple birds and knowing which ones that the people are going to shoot. So that was really helpful. We were able to get quite a bit from that. From there, we went and scouted, and we found this pond that was just holding a ton of birds. It was like 1,500 to 2,000 geese in this pond. It was a pretty decent sized pond. And so we started talking to a couple of the outfitters that Sean knows up there, and they were telling us, that's so-and-so's pond, that's so-and-so's field, they won't let anybody hunt it, blah, blah, blah. And Sean's buddy, Phil, that travels with him, is just a absolute specimen of getting permission for fields and ponds. So him and Marty ended up going up and talking to not only the person that owns the pond, but the field next to it. They're two separate people. And within a half hour, they had permission on both of them. It was just crazy. They can go and talk to anybody and get permission. And it just goes to show that like being very personable and having the experience of talking to people for getting permission is very, very helpful when you're in these situations and you're traveling and you're out of state. So that was really helpful. So then the third day, we ended up going and hunting that pond. And we shot, it was basically the same thing. We had singles, doubles, a couple 4-packs that would come in. And we picked away at those. We shot about 18, 19, I think it was. And we were like one bird away from them passing the gun to me and taking the camera. So we were just close enough, but not quite. And I didn't really care if I shot or not. It was so much fun filming and taking pictures that I wasn't really too concerned about shooting. But it would have been fun. It was a cool pond. It was a really cool setup. We took the panel blinds and put them in the cattails, similar to the day before. And that thing with the blind grass on it, it just disappears. That blind grass is really, really good stuff. It's synthetic. It doesn't hold water. So it's really, really good. And it just made for a really, really cool hunt. And we shot some good birds. We were fighting some ice, which was interesting. But overall, that was kind of the 2 big days that we had there. The third day, we were supposed to be hunting out of the boat. So we took Sean's boat all the way to Minnesota. And then we met Phil there, who picked up Jeff, who runs Game Fair with Sean at the booth. He's a RNT Pro staff. And so he came out and was hunting with us as well. And we were going to take the boat and take that to a lake there and hunt divers. But the wind was just not right the 4th day that we were there. They kept telling us that we were going to have the right wind. It didn't pan out. So we ended up hunting the pit that we hunted the first day, just trying to get something out of there. And then we actually left from Minnesota and drove to Wisconsin. So Jeff joined us in Wisconsin, and we went and hunted with the 𝐤𝐚𝐽𝐬s. The 𝐤𝐤𝐽𝐬s work with Ducks Unlimited pretty tightly, and they had talked to Sean at Game Fair and basically told him, if you guys want to come hunt in Wisconsin on the Mississippi River, then we got a place for you, and we'll come out and hunt. So we ended up driving down there, staying with the 𝐤𝐚𝐽𝐬s. Their place was so cool. They have a guest house there that's all decked out, Ducks Unlimited stuff. Clips from that will be in the video as well. And it was just a really cool place to stay. But our luck, we get there and it's still warm. There really wasn't a ton of birds around. Like, we were driving around looking for birds, and they weren't even staged in like certain places. So it was really difficult to get great hunting content there. We were able to still get, a few clips, get some clips and photos of the decoys, the boat, calls, the guns, basically everything that I could think of for sponsors. I was trying to get just while we were there, and it just didn't pan out the way that we were really hoping. But I mean, that's hunting, and that's the hard part about relying on Mother Nature to create content, is that it's the same thing with YouTube. I can go out and hunt for 4 days and maybe get enough usable footage for like one video, or I can go out for 4 days and get nothing, or I can go out for 4 days and I can get 4 different full-length videos for YouTube out of it. It's the same thing when we're doing this kind of stuff. So they've got ways of filling in time and using the clips, especially for like what we need, and to make different styles of episodes, highlighting different products, maybe for RNT, highlighting, Sean's dog, certain ways of hunting. If they can't make a full episode out of the Minnesota stuff and the Michigan, Ontario, then I'm sure they'll use those clips for other stuff, and they'll kind of use their creativeness to figure out a way to actually utilize the footage that we used. And or that we got for the shows that they need. So it's a 13 episode season. Sean and John have split it, so there's a little bit more work that Sean and John need to do this year to make up for Jimbo, but it's we're making it work, and we might even be filming something, this late goose season, just to get anything else that we need. I've been talking to Sean, so we're gonna try and make that happen. And yeah, it was just such a cool experience, and hopefully Sean asks me back next year. It'd be really, really fun to do a couple more of these trips, and I got along well with everybody. It was really cool to meet some new people and experience some different places. I would probably never go to Fergus Falls by myself or go to the Minnesota or the Mississippi River. Just on a whim like that. That'd take way more planning, and it was just kind of cool to just bounce around the country and see these different places and hunt in different spots and get the content that I did. It was a lot of fun, and I'm really excited for hopefully doing some more. And yeah, but I just wanted to come on here. It's been a little while, and I just want to finish out these last few episodes of the podcast. So like I said, be looking out for the next episode with John Wallace from Wild Game Cook. He's going to come on. We're going to talk about different ways to cook wild game, processing it, and all the cool stuff that he has going on, sharing some recipes, and then I'll finish it out with a overview of the season, and that'll be, season 3 of the podcast. So yeah, hopefully next year I can kind of plan this a little bit better. I won't have a lot of my own personal things that get in the way, and I can kind of make this a little more a little longer, a few more episodes. And yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. Be sure to check out the YouTube channel, check out the videos that I've got coming. If you guys are on any of the streaming platforms, please leave a review. If you guys are on YouTube, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode.